Hello, everybody. It's Sylvie. Welcome back. I hope you're doing good. I'm doing a tag today. I'm doing the Coffee House Decks tag. This was started by Kay at Amidst the Grey. I will obviously link her channel, her video below. This tag has been around for a bit, but I never got to doing it when it was new and popular because I don't think I had my channel yet. So so I'm not even fashionably late to this tag anymore. I think I'm just late. Like I'm extremely late. But it looks fun. I've wanted to do it. And now that it's like officially autumn in my mind, it's like cozy coffee shop season. So it makes sense to be doing a coffee based tarot tag. So that's what we're doing today. And I'm going to get straight into it. So the first prompt is the espresso shot, a deck that's strong, punchy, and gets straight to the point. And for this one, I have my Morgan Greer, which is in this very cute little bag. So the Morgan Greer. Oh, the Morgan Greer. I've told this story before and you'll get sick of hearing it. But when I was looking through the display deck in the shop I bought this from, I didn't realize the box was broken. So all the cards kind of like fell out the bottom of the box and landed on the floor with the card that had been stalking me sitting like face up on top. And that card was the death card. And my relationship with this deck has continued very much in the same vein as that. I used this one the other day for a reading for myself. And as usual, it came out with the more like obvious points. This is definitely a deck that is more likely to tell you what you already know rather than bringing out like the subtle influences and dancing around all of the hidden factors contributing to a situation. This deck definitely tells it like it is, like no holds barred. I don't think I could come up with better words to describe the Morgan Greer than strong, punchy, get straight to the point. Like it's just, that is what it is. I think also the fact that the figures, okay, the Empress is a bad example, but like a lot of the figures, like it's very kind of zoomed in, like it's quite like here, like we've just got the like upper body and the face profile. Like it's in your face, you're in its face, here's death saying hi. Like that's the whole vibe of this deck. Okay, next prompt is the Drip Coffee, a deck that's simple, accessible, and gets the job done. And for this, I have grabbed my Lifelines Tarot Color Outside the Lines edition. And this is, oh, I've got the guidebook. What's happened? Why are we back to front? Okay. Well. Alright. What a complicated start to this simple, accessible deck. So, yes, this is the Color Outside the Lines Tarot. And it's really just a clear and like straightforward reader. I've done readings with this that are absolutely spot on. They hit to the heart of the matter so cleanly. I think that's the best word for this deck, actually. It's a clean-cut reader. And I think the visuals also help with that. It's this like single line drawing of Pamela Coleman-Smith's artwork with obviously like bits of color added. I have another version of this deck that's like mini and is just the black and white if you wanted to eliminate all distraction completely. But yeah, so it's the Rider-Waite Smith artwork that we're familiar with, but it's just this like partial line drawing of it. And I really enjoy that. I think you can read the line work and the color that is in there, but you can also read like the blank space, the negative space of what's been left out. And it can make for a really succinct reading. It doesn't overwhelm you with layers of like symbolism and meaning. I think like the prompt for this one says, like it's simple, it gets the job done. And the guidebook that jumped out of the deck actually also fits this prompt really well. It's not overly wordy. So I really enjoy the majors. I think the minors are keywords. The minors could stand to be a little bit more wordy, but you know, what's there is good. It doesn't skew overly positive or negative for the most part. And I just think it lends itself really well to all kinds of readings. So yeah, I need to pull this one out more. I feel like I haven't reached for it in a while. But yeah, I do think this is maybe out of print now, so apologies if I'm tempting you with this deck that you can no longer get. But yeah, that is the Lifelines Colour Outside the Lines edition. Okay, prompt number 3, the Pourover, a deck you need to take your time with, but is totally worth the effort. And I'm fairly sure I have described this deck in these terms before. This is the Lubanko Tarot, which also is sadly out of print at the moment. I'm not sure whether or not there is going to be another print run. So again, sorry if I'm teasing you with decks that you can't get. But to the point, I love this deck. I really do love this deck, but it is not a quick or easy reader in the slightest. It does come with a guidebook, which, you know, it's a little white book. I'm not going to grab it, which can be quite helpful because it, you know, tells you what is portrayed in the cards. Some of them are a little bit more abstract, and so like it's not always clear what exactly we're looking at. I'm thinking of like, I think it's the 10 of Pentacles or the 10 of something. Side note, adore this Queen of Swords. Yeah, so it's the 10 of Cups, not the 10 of Pentacles, but like this is not your traditional 10 of Cups, and I think the abundance here is this like rainfall and the drought land, and that's the abundance of the cups in this card. So the guidebook is helpful for the cards that are not obvious, like how they're depicting the card. But I find the best way for me to actually read with this is to like really sit with the cards that I've pulled and to like cycle through my reading a little bit and revisit each of the cards in the reading in a little cycle to interpret the imagery and interpret how I think they're talking to each other and how they're talking to me. So yeah, so like in contrast to some other decks that I've got out for this tag, this one is like not necessarily speaking my language, or maybe it's speaking my language, but like we're not in the same like dialect. It's a little bit harder or a little bit more involved. It requires a more involved reading, but it is well worth that effort when I do read with it. So yeah, this is a deck that you would have to pry out of my cold dead hands. Like I might not read with it too often, but when I do, it's really, really worth it. Okay, I had to pause, I had to go away, I've come back. The next prompt number 4 is the Cafe Latte, a deck that's well received and highly palatable. And for that one, I have my beloved Trippin Waite. If I can get in, I have my beloved Trippin Waite. There we go. Yes, this is a Tarot Collectibles deck. It is very badly edged by myself, and she's a little bit sticky at the moment because I took her to a pub, which is kind of the point that I'm making, because yeah, this one I feel like is well received, and I don't think there is a single art style out there that is going to please everybody like universally. People do seem to like this whenever I pull it out. I think most people can get on with a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. Like that's the imagery that they are likely to be familiar with if they have any familiarity with tarot. And yeah, I feel like it fits perfectly for this prompt. I think the Death card is a really good example of like a scary card, but like it looks fun, you know? I feel like it's less likely to put people off. Even if you do pull something that like looks a bit scary. Yeah, and when you have like a little spread, it just looks so fun and colourful that palatable is a good word. Like it's just generally very well received. People like it. It's fun, it's groovy, it kind of lightens the seriousness. This is the deck that I have actually read for other people with, which is mostly why I picked it for this prompt, because it's often the one that I'll pull out if I'm like meeting up at a pub with some friends and feel like the chances are high I'll end up pulling out my cards, like this is a good one. That's also why this deck is sticky, because I definitely put it down in a puddle of beer at one point. But yeah, like this is also a really kind of clear, easy reader for me. I think because it's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, which again is handy when I'm reading for others. I love the Dalmatians in this Ten of Pentacles. Yeah, especially other people who don't know the tarot themselves. This is easy for me to read with. Does that make sense? Yeah, and in that respect, I think this has a benefit over something like the Colour Outside the Lines, because this does have a lot more going on in the cards, but it's kind of easier to break that imagery down for other people. So if I'm doing like a quick little reading for my friends who know nothing about the tarot, it's nice to be able to like point to certain things in the cards and be like, oh, this means that, etc., etc. So yeah, that is my cafe latte. Ooh, my cafe latte deck. I don't like having, there we go, we'll put the Two of Cups on top. It's like I don't like having the tower sitting on top when I next open the deck, so Two of Cups is much nicer. Okay, next prompt is the Cappuccino, a deck that's classic, sophisticated, and maybe a bit fussy. And for that, I have gone with the Tarot of Aphrodite. I'm not a particularly sophisticated bitch, so this was kind of tricky to pick for. I also do not really love a cappuccino. I don't love the foam texture. Anyhow, I did land on this, the Tarot of Aphrodite. She's not particularly fussy, but she's definitely classic and sophisticated, I think. Aside from anything else, the artwork is a lot of classical artwork, so I feel like it lends itself to the prompt quite nicely. Yeah, I really love the readings I get with this deck. It's beautiful, and yeah, I feel like it takes quite a broad view on whatever I'm reading about. Like, it's not directly calling me out on my shit or getting too personal and like bullying me, which I think is pretty classy. It's a pretty classy way to go about a reading. Words are failing me today, and I've got a couple of videos to film, so we might get less coherent as time goes on. Okay, prompt number 6, the Mocha, a deck that's rich, indulgent, and a bit extra. And for that, I chose the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. I feel like I had to pick this for this like indulgent prompt, because like it's a I bashed my box up. We're not going to talk about it. It's a mass market deck, but it was expensive for a mass market deck. It's got all this gorgeous gold foiling on it. It's got this hardback guidebook. It's this gorgeous like linen texture cardstock. It's rich and indulgent. It just is. And I feel like it's definitely a little bit extra with all the shiny gold as well. And there's something about the art style that I also feel like fits for this prompt, even though it's not, you know, it's not maximalist art style. Like, it's quite limited color palettes. It's quite like gorgeous, clean artwork. But I kind of feel like it fits. I feel like I've also definitely been, why all of these like aggressive swords cards coming up? I feel like I've been neglecting this deck. That's what I was saying. Love her. I really want to read it more. I love this tower with like all the elements. I think it's just gorgeous. I really want to read with this more. And I do feel like it feels a little bit fancy and special, and maybe that's why I don't reach for it. I think I need to get over that, because like I have more expensive decks. I have decks that I've spent more money on than this one, and it's mass market, so it's not like it's rare and hard to acquire. But anyhow, this deck is quite luxurious in its aesthetic, as you can see, and yeah, I also do find it a fairly indulgent experience to read with, I think, because for whatever reason I always want to be doing readings with this deck that are more than, you know, a 3 card spread, maybe just to look at more of the beautiful artwork. But you know, either way it fits. This is a deck that feels quite indulgent and a deck that I always want to be a little bit extra with. So that is my mocha deck. Ironically, my coffee is going cold. So prompt 7, the cortado, a deck that's balanced and objective. And for that, I have grabbed my copy of the 5th Spirit Tarot. I always think of this. Oh, I'm losing cards. Hierophant just chilling on top. Oh, do you know what? That's weird, because I haven't grabbed this deck in a little while. And I was reading Charlie Claire Burgess's new book, Radical Tarot, because I'm reading it alongside, I was using it as my guidebook for a reading that I did. And I was reading the entry on the Hierophant. So fun little synchronicity to have the Hierophant jump out at me just now. Anyhow, what was I saying? Balanced and objective, the 5th Spirit. Yes. I always think of this deck as a deck that is like not too opinionated. It's not taking sides. It's presenting a fairly neutral perspective. Maybe it is the tagline of Tarot Beyond the Binary. How do you describe yourself? Yeah, Tarot Beyond Binaries. Maybe that's just in my head, and so I think of this as a little more balanced and a little bit less like black and white. But either way, it's a really good reader. And like I say, I've recently got their new book, Radical Tarot, which has more of the same kind of ethos that's behind the deck. But again, I haven't pulled this recently, this deck, so I haven't actually read the book with the deck. But I'm looking forward to doing that. Anyhow, but yeah, it does feel to me like there's that like same emphasis on redressing the balance a little bit when it comes to who has traditionally been depicted in tarot. Like we can see here in our Emperor, a lot of the imagery and the text in the Radical Tarot book as well put marginalized people front and center and really, I don't know if plays with is the right word, but subverts maybe gender roles and like the hierarchies that we're used to seeing. So it's a great deck. I love the ethos behind it. I love reading with it. And I do find that in readings, it does tend to, it's easy to read with that more like balanced, objective perspective. And I think the minors actually help with that too. The minors are a little bit more, they're not pippish exactly, but they don't really feature people. So they feel a little bit more open and like I say, they don't skew too far like one way or the other. And I think that's something to be said of the deck, like as a whole. A lot of the cards can be read with either a positive or a negative slant, like depending on the context and what other cards are in the spread and all that, rather than depicting them like overtly one way or the other. And yeah, like even the negative cards like Death and the Tower and the Devil, like they are big events. The Devil maybe not so much. The Devil, I feel like it has a pretty specific interpretation in it. It's the puppetry thing going on. But that aside, a lot of the cards kind of come from a more like neutral perspective, and it's easier to apply to what you're reading. And I love this 7 of Swords, which I know I've said before, because we've got the magpie. And I also have a bit of a, like, not a soft spot for the 7 of Swords, but it's one of those cards that I think is often really heavily skewed towards being like a sneaky little thief and a bad person and someone who's lying to you and cheating on you and swindling you. And that's not, like, that's a very singular perspective. And I like this one because it shows you a different angle to it. And it has a magpie. And, you know, my channel name is Tarot Magpie, so I love that. Okay, next up we have prompt number 8, the Panna, a deck that puts you in your place but with a hint of sweetness. I have the Crystal Visions tarot for this prompt. I have to admit, I had no idea what a Panna was before this tag. It is apparently an espresso with like a dollop of cream in it, like a bit like a, what's the dessert thing, an affogato? Anyway, this is a Crystal Visions deck. I have chosen this deck for this prompt because whenever I read with this, it likes to give me quite intense readings, but like the prompt says, with a hint of sweetness. It goes deep, but not necessarily dark, if that makes sense. I am very used to pulling with this deck. I end up pulling quite confronting cards for whatever, you know, question I'm asking, whatever I'm reading about, but it doesn't feel like it's smacking me in the face with it. Like the Morgan Greer can smack me in the face with whatever I'm reading about, and this one takes a less direct approach. It's honest, but it's not brutally honest, you know? I think it also helps that this deck is, like, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. I feel like the artwork also fits this prompt quite well. Like, it feels like fairy energy to me. Oh, this death is a perfect example of what I mean, actually. Like, it's sobering. It's obviously the death card. It's not sugarcoating the death card as exclusively being that like rebirth transformation, whereas I think the death is more painful. Unfortunately, it's messier than that. It's not just the resolution. So yeah, it's sobering but not mean. It's not harsh. It's visually still gorgeous, you know? So yeah, I think it's beautiful, but it's not a light and fluffy reader, basically. So yeah, that is the Crystal Visions Tarot. Also, side note, the cardstock is just, I think US Games tuck box decks are maybe some of my favorites because they are small, they don't take up too much space. It's a little white book, but they're not the worst little white books in the world. But the cardstock, US Games cardstock, is generally pretty good. Anyways, next up we have the Chai Latte, a deck that is warm, cozy, and nurturing. And where have I put it? This bitch. So I feel like if you could probably guess what this prompt was going to be. It's the Guardian of the Night Tarot. 50 points to you if you guessed right. So I have said it before. I will say it again. Nurturing, typically not my taste in tarot. You could maybe tell with how I was talking about the Crystal Visions, like not being too like sweet and fluffy. Like I don't love a sweet and fluffy deck. That's very rarely something that appeals to me and is more likely going to put me off a deck if I feel like it's too sugar-coated, too nice. But this deck is a bit of an exception, to the point that this lives beside my bed as my go-to deck when I want to pull some cards before I go to sleep. So most of my readings with the Guardian of the Night Tarot are done like late at night in the glow of fairy lights, which also is very warm, cozy, and nurturing as a reading experience. So anyhow, yeah, this is nurturing, but it's not fluffy. Like the Six of Pentacles here is the example I pull out often because a lot of decks, even decks that I don't think are especially light and fluffy, will just show the Six of Pentacles as being about like charity and giving. And I think it's a lot more nuanced than that. Like there's two sides to everything. And so this one has this symbiotic relationship between the bison and whatever this bird is that eats the ticks on the, is it a bison? This is embarrassing. Anyway, that like symbiotic relationship can kind of end up skewing too far one way or the other. And if there are no ticks to eat, the bird will just like peck at the creature. So like it's a little bit more realistic. Is that the word? Not realistic. But yeah, overall, like it's gorgeous as well. It's got this like soft, hazy artwork, which again feels like cozy and nurturing. The guidebooks are really good as well, MJ Cullinane's decks, and this one is lovely. Like it will bring up the like darker or more difficult aspects of a card and what it can mean. But then it also gives you some like resolution as well. Like, yeah, nurturing, I think is a good word for it. because nurturing doesn't just mean being nice. Nurturing means like giving you what you need to grow. So yeah, love this deck. Never going to stop talking about this deck. I feel like maybe I dreamt this, or maybe I watched somebody's video the other day and they were talking about MJ Cullinan decks, because I never shut up about them. And honestly, I kind of love that. Prompt number 10 is the Matcha Latte, a deck that's an acquired taste or a bit unconventional. And for that one, ooh, it's enthusiastic, right? We have the Hieronymus Bosch Tarot. This one, first of all, okay, I'll get into my thoughts in a minute. The box, I'm just, it's so satisfying. It opens up like a little wardrobe of cards. Anyhow, I'll move you. And I love these blue edges as well. Okay. I promise I'm gonna make some points now. So, for a deck that is an acquired taste or a bit unconventional, this one feels a little bit like cheating, because I'm not sure I have actually acquired a taste for this deck yet. I like it, I just don't really work with it much. It's just so weird. I love it. It's definitely unconventional. This is, just to like clarify, this is the more recent, I think it's about a year old. This is the Rockpool mass market version of this deck. I think this deck was indie before Rockpool picked it up. I think there has been another different publisher mass market Hieronymus Bosch Garden of Earthly Delights Tarot. Maybe even another indie one. I'm not sure, but this is the Rockpool version. Anyhow, I did do an unboxing of this earlier this year, in case you're interested in my thoughts. Basically a little like what the fuck reactions to this deck. Anyhow, let's try and get my brain back in gear. The most unconventional thing about this deck is the way the suits are put together. Like you can see here, Prince of Swords, which actually sounds very normal. Ace of Berries, less traditional for sure. The major cards, there's like a 22 card major suit, which is pretty close to the traditional major arcana. That's what I'm trying to say. Where is the majors? We're just all knights and kings and queens and aces. Deception. Okay, so this is 7 would be the Chariot. So maybe not all true traditional, but like 0, the Wayfarer, like that's pretty consistent with the Fool. The major arcana is more or less similar to what we know, but it's the minors that are completely in their own world. We've got a bunch of essentially extended court suits. I forget how many there are, like 5 or 6 or 7, plus the, love this, plus the 7 deadly sins for like good measure. So we have, yeah, these weird extended court minors, and it's all got the artwork from Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. It's all very weird and wonderful. I love it. I keep meaning to pull this out and use it as an oracle deck because we've got keywords. I think this deck would be far less accessible without the keywords because it's a whole new system of its own. But yeah. And another thing that I think is really cool about this is that these like additional extra suits, like books and skates and berries, they're not just like plucked out of the air. They are all, it's based on the common themes in the Garden of Earthly Delights, which, yeah, it leads to, like, I wouldn't say it's strictly a tarot deck. Like, I wouldn't call this a tarot deck. Like, it is called the Hieronymus Bosch Tarot, so that is what I call it because that's its name. But like, I wouldn't consider this a tarot deck. I wouldn't read it like a tarot deck. It's definitely doing its own thing, but it has got a structure to it that has been based on something. It's not just been like completely thrown together and called a tarot deck. Does this make sense? Possibly not, because also I recognize that the tarot is made up in the first place, so it's all a bit of a circular swings and roundabouts situation. Anyhow, I think I've probably rambled about this enough, so we're going to leave it there. Yeah, we're going to leave it there. Honestly, I'm not sure if I have any intention of actually learning the system that this is based on. I like to flip through the cards because I think they're really cool. I want to start using it a bit like an oracle deck with the keywords. And I think that's enough for me for right now. I'm not sure that I plan on like learning all the different associations. Like there's extra elements in here which maybe are alchemical. I'm not sure. Okay. Constant interruptions today. Next, where are we? Prompt number 11, the hot chocolate, a deck that speaks to a younger version of yourself. I went back and forth on this one, but this is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. But firstly, this older version of me still enjoys a hot chocolate. Thank you very much. I had the best hot chocolate of my life the other weekend. We went to this like gourmet marshmallow place and had hot chocolate and the biggest, best marshmallow I've ever consumed. Anyhow, let's get back to the tag. So, yeah, this is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot, which I have a bit of a complex relationship with. I put this in my like decks I'm decluttering video, and then I brought it back out, and I kind of pair it with things, but I don't really use it, and it's a whole situation. But I think doing this tag has let me finally hit on the reason I can't seem to actually let go of this deck. For whatever reason, I think this does speak to a younger version of myself, and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's something in the artwork. The art style, by the way, is absolutely gorgeous and is not the reason that I was going to get rid of this deck. I guess it just doesn't really speak to the current version of myself, in that I really struggle to actually read with it. It doesn't read like a Rider-Waite-Smith to me in the imagery, but the guidebook, or at least its keywords, like the guidebook that there is, it's obviously describing a Rider-Waite-Smith system. It just doesn't connect for me. So yeah, let us not think about what that means for my connection with my own younger self. We're not going to go there. But yeah, like it just doesn't, I don't know, like I love this Emperor. I really love some of the cards. I just feel like a lot of them, like it's trying to say something, but I'm not really sure what, and I'm not really sure if it knows. Like I feel like the artist, actually I think this was in the guidebook, the artist doesn't know tarot. The artist was approached for this project to illustrate this project, but was also kind of left to do their own thing a little bit. So I don't know, I just think you can tell that this isn't coming from a place of like tarot knowledge, which I don't think is inherently bad. I think it's fine to have cards that are a different perspective on the system, but for whatever reason it just doesn't really connect for me. So, oh, I'm throwing cards. Yeah, this is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. It's beautiful. I can't seem to let go of it. Okay, prompt number 12. The Italian Soda, a deck that's fun, low-key, and not overly serious. I had to look Italian soda up. Apparently, it's just soda water and syrup, so I have a heavy suspicion it has no Italian origins whatsoever, but maybe that's the not overly serious part of this prompt. Anyways, this is the Tarot de Carlotydes. It's a Fournier deck, so it is my favorite combination of like size and cardstock. Like they're just so cute, but they still feel like a full-size tarot, you know? They're not like a mini pocket edition. The cards are exactly what this prompt says. It's fun, it's cute, it's whimsical. There's references throughout the deck. Okay, yet another introduction. What was it saying? It's fun, it's cute, it's whimsical. It has references in the imagery to different like fairy tales and pop culture things. Like David Bowie's in here somewhere. I think he's the magician. I think there's like the Princess and the Pea in here as well in one of the cards. It's really just, it's a really cute little deck. It also reads really well. I love this like cat for the devil. It follows the Rider-Waite-Smith system enough that it's easy to read for the most part. You just have to read it through this like filter of whimsy. It's really, really cute. It's delightful. Like here, this is like Klimt's The Kiss. And there's just there's a lot of stuff going on. And then like some cards are also quite serious. Like it's not just like a fluffy take on the tarot. This though is, I think I maybe talked about this in my favorite wands cards video. This 5 of Wands with like the horses have the wands strapped to them like they're unicorns and they're fighting, but it's like very playful, like it's more competition and like non-serious competition than like real arguments, which is how I see the 5 of Wands for the most part. But yeah, it's just a really cute little deck, and yeah, it's not overly serious. So there we go, the Tarot de Carlotydes. I'm probably saying that wrong. I can only apologise. Is that nearly it? Yes, there is one more prompt. Prompt number 13, the Herbal Tea, a deck that takes things down a notch or helps you unwind. I have gone for the Midnight Magic Tarot for this prompt. I already used the Guardian of the Night for another prompt, so I couldn't use that again, although it definitely does help me unwind. But yeah, I went for this one. The black background of the cards and absence of human figures is a combo that I definitely find quite relaxing to read with. And I also feel like this deck isn't too serious. You know, it's not full of symbolism and serious esoteric correspondences. Like it's mushrooms. There's a limit to how much you can see yourself and your life mirrored in a deck when it's just showing you mushrooms. So I also, yeah, I find it quite a good deck to wind down with for that reason. The cards are pretty good actually. Like I think this is a nicely illustrated deck. The cards are pretty good at depicting the energy of each card, but like I say, it's not stuffed full of symbolism where I have to really kick my brain into gear to be able to read with it. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy reading with it. And I think I need to pull it out more when I'm in that kind of mood actually, where I want to kind of unwind a little bit with some tarot, because it's fairly often that I'm in that kind of brain space and I want to do a reading. And I have this deck, so I should utilize it more for that purpose. And I love how much this 8 of Wands evokes the Rider-Waite-Smith. I think it's really nice. It's a really nice deck. So yeah, that is the Midnight Magic Tarot. And with that, I have finished all of the prompts for this tag. So I'm really glad that I finally got around to doing this. I remember watching all the videos when it was first going around TarotTube and really enjoying them, so it was fun to take part myself. And I love a good tarot tag. We know this, a lot of my videos are tarot tags, so yes. So I think that is it from me. I think I will save you any more of my ramblings. Yeah, that was it. That was the tag. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I will, as always, I will list all of the decks that I've shown in the description. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Give me a like if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.